the left of my mother is Joan Baez and a wall. To the right of my father is Sean Hannity and a wall. They're both really intelligent, very hardworking people, good looking in their youth. And they probably got together at a party, maybe there's some vodka, and two good-looking, funny people who are diametrically opposed on any given issue had some fun, and suddenly Iris has me growing in amniotic fluid. And so they got married for appearance's sake. It is the early 60s after all. And when I arrived, they got divorced immediately. I hate you more. And so we're on different parts of the Washington, D.C. diamond, and the court said 5 days a week with mom, 2 days a week with dad. And so on Saturday mornings, I had my little suitcase full of my bright white underwear and my socks and my shirt, all from Sears and Roebuck. I'd get into my father's aging piece of American steel, and he would drive me around Washington, D.C. with not a clue what to do with a hyperactive, Ritalin-addled child. So I'm like, out of my mind, and he would just, as his scrotum was cooled by the can of cheap beer he always had, and it had red lights. It looked like a quarterback before the snap looking for golf. And he would just throw them in the back when they're empty. He'd somehow magically find another one. Where he kept that thermos, I'll never know. Hey, your time. Anyway. There was always another beer. And I'm a little kid, I don't know anything. I just figured Dad's thirsty. It's the other kind of Coke, right? And so he would drink and drive, and as an older person, like, that's dangerous to both of us. Like, you could get us killed. And like in those days, you didn't put your seatbelt on. It was only the one around the waist anyway. And so that would just be like, you get held here so your face can smash into the dashboard. Like, yay! Like, where's Ralph Nader? He was, hadn't shown up yet with more ideas. Anyway, so days with my dad, he was trying to bond with me by giving me his view of the world in a very adult fashion to a little kid who doesn't know much. You know the queers? No. Well, the queers took down Rome. What's a queer? What's Rome? When you get queers in any society, the society fails. And civilizations fall because of queers, and it's going to happen in the United States of America. So queers are bad. And your mom knows queers, she's a queer lover. So I want you to love her because she's your mom, but you don't have to respect her because she loves the queers and the spades. What's a spade? Spades are like Marvin Food Stamp. All they want is free stuff. And like, wow, this is toxic. And it was mind-blowing to entertain the idea that adults can be wrong, because they give you SpaghettiOs. They grow out of your shoes. They give you new shoes. They're kind of magic. You know, they put you in a car. They take you somewhere and they bring you back. And like, can they be wrong? Not to me. I'm like, well, okay, I didn't believe those things. I say, Mom, so queers are the reason. Who said the word queer to you? Dad, go to your room. Hey, I didn't do anything. And so she would kind of detoxify my mind. She goes, Henry, they're not queers. You know, they're homosexuals. And two of my friends. You know that cool guy Ray with the beret who's really nice to you? He's a queer. Like, but I like him. He's really nice to me. Right. So you have nothing to fear from the queer. And that other friend of mine, he comes over and sometimes we listen to records. The black guy, yeah, well, his name isn't Marvin Food Stamp. Okay, and don't have these arguments with your father. Just listen and shut your mouth and get to Sunday evening when you get dumped back on my doorstep. And so I would just go for the 48 hours of fear with my father being totally obsequious. I would just sit and shut up. Like, those queers? Yes, sir. It's bouncing off me. But what, I'm going to argue? Tiny little kid high on Ritalin? Well, not high, more like, And so, not a cool time. And so one time I go to his house for the 48 hours of fear, and we walk in, and standing in the small living room is this woman. And she looks like I hate children. It's just radiating from her. She's utterly terrifying. I'm like, ah! There's like little kids have a sense of things, right? They look at something like, that's scary. I looked at this woman like, you're scary and you hate kids and you hate me. I was right about all of that. I said, you see this woman? That's your new mom. He got married and didn't tell anyone, like a stealth wife. Like he must have uncrated her from that ad for the back of Boy's Life. A squirrel monkey for the son, a wife for you. And suddenly, boom, she's there. Like there was no dating that I ever saw. Suddenly, she's there and they are married. So he goes, that's your new mom. A new mom? So I'm not going home to the chain-smoking, white wine-drinking, dish-throwing, screaming one who had Bob Dylan records. Interesting. So now I have this one, and that looks even scarier. Oh, come on! This is a ripoff. I'm like, it gets worse and worse for me. I haven't even done anything yet. And so as he's leaving the room, he says, say hello to your new mom. And I'm like, yes, sir. And I look at her and I'm like, hello, new mom. What do I know? She picks me up, like by the scruff of my neck and my pants, and she kind of heave-hoes me into the wall. And I kind of go, as they say, ass over tea kettle, and slam into the wall and drop. Nothing in my little life had prepared me for an adult I had met for less than 30 seconds, violently picking me up with adult anger and smashing me into a wall. What I do remember is nothing hurt. It didn't hurt. But I was hyperventilating. I didn't even cry because my mind was completely scrambled. Like an adult has just knocked the crap out of me and I haven't even done anything. So my solution to that was to run from the house up to the little playground and sit on a swing and hyperventilate. So all I have to... I had nothing to calm me down. So I'm just sitting there alone, freaking out. And finally I got cold. And so I just go back to the house, and this started this interminable period with this terrifying woman who, like my father, hated women and gay people and people of color. And they thought racist jokes were hilarious, and they'd say them around me. They'd use some really choice language at restaurants in public, and people would look over and I would just sink into my seat, knowing enough to be incredibly embarrassed. And so one day, I'm at the house and I'm bouncing all over the place, running up to the park and back, just trying to keep myself busy. And I walk into the living room, and I don't know where the stepmother is, but my father's sitting alone on the edge of the couch near the wall with the fireplace where I got tossed into. And he's holding a genuine gun. I've never seen a real gun in person except on looking at the TV, looking at Batman or Superman. And so he goes, come here. And I walk over to him. You can smell the alcohol. He's drunk. And it's like noon, so he's already wasted. And he's sitting looking down, holding this gun. And I'm short and he's sitting. So we're basically eye to eye. And so he's looking down and he goes into this story. He was training for World War II and World War II ended. So he almost got there. He was in basic training in Texas and the war ended. So we went back to Milwaukee with his honorable discharge, which they called the ruptured duck. It was like an eagle, but it's the ruptured duck. And his uniform and all these meaningless patches that you can get at the commissary. Like, here's a thing that says you showed up to eat. Because he hadn't gone anywhere. And he had this hat and the whole thing, and all these photos he took of him and this other red-blooded American young men are all going like, yeah, Germany, we're coming for you. And he didn't get to do any of that. So he tells me this story about how he and all his buddies were on an airplane on a navigation exercise where they give the navigator like 5 points on a map, and the plane is going to go hit 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, and land the plane, and then you go to the dining facility and eat dinner. And so he told me that the plane went over the border into Texas, and below them is a river. And he said, I'll never forget this. There was an Indian, that's what he said, there was an Indian in a boat, and we shot him up pretty bad. And so with their guns looking down, they shot a man to pieces. It's probably just some farmer or a fisherman trying to bring home a meal, and they shot him up. And so they murdered a man for no reason but to get their kicks. And in those days, no cell phones, no nothing, and no advocacy, no lawyers, no one showing up for this guy. Eventually the body parts wash up on the shore, and everyone recognizes him, and the wife and family go to pieces, and that's just, USA and Mexico relations in the 1940s. And so my dad tells me how he basically helped murder a man for no reason, and then he hands me the gun. And my previous experience with guns was my cap gun. And maybe some of you are old enough to remember those really bad cap guns, which are like plastic with a fake bone handle, and they give you the paper caps. It's like red tape with little tiny bits of gunpowder, and you have to line up the charge with the hammer just right, but you can't do it. So it's like click, 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 bang, click, 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 bang, where the bang becomes an abstract. And I didn't have anyone in the neighborhood to play fun genocidal games like Cowboys and Indians, so I would go into the backyard like, click, bang, oh, it worked. It was a really boring toy, because the caps come out the other side, unpopped. Anyway, I threw it in the closet and I gave up. But I knew guns to be these very light things, hollow plastic. My father hands me the gun. I almost dropped it because I wasn't ready for the weight. It's like fully loaded snub-nosed .38, which for a little weenie-armed kid is like handing you 4 cinder blocks. Think fast, like whoa, it's heavier than you think. And so I almost dropped it, but I recovered. And I picked the gun up and I put the barrel right into his forehead. And I start pulling the trigger as hard as I can while saying bang, bang, bang. And I was really happy. That's one time with happiness, because my dad wants to play with me. And I'm just thinking, we're playing cops and robbers, right? And he sees that I'm trying to blow his brains out, and he snatches the gun away from me. And I'm guessing I was probably, the weapon was either safety, or I was too weak to pull the trigger. Who knows, it's too late now. So he takes the gun away, and he pushes me away from him, and I just kind of wandered away. And I didn't think anything of it. My dad told me a crazy story about an Indian in a boat. I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell anybody. And then I got older, and I went back to that memory. Like, wait a minute. Why are you holding a gun? Are you having a pang of guilt? Why are you confessing murder to a dumb little kid? Did you tell your new wife? Did you tell my mom? Did you tell your first wife? Did you ever tell a member of your family? Does anyone know, besides your buddies, that this happened? Maybe he was feeling guilt or something, and he wanted to offload. So he chose a little kid who doesn't remember anything. There's plausible denial. Like, well, this young man says you murdered a man in a boat back in the day. Well, his mom's a spade lover, so you don't have to believe anything that comes out of his mouth. Besides that, he's on Ritalin. He's a psycho. And so I'm easily written off. And so maybe he was just trying to get it off his chest, and maybe he was thinking, oh, poor me, I'm a bad guy. I'll shoot myself and put my brains all over the couch. I don't know. But it's for reasons like these, I did not want to call him, I hope you understand. and so several days later, like 12 or 14 days later, I get one of the most amazing emails in my life. I only know English, and I have a loose grip on that language after so many years of trying, but I admire a good sentence. That's why I read the speeches of Abraham Lincoln. He's a tremendous writer. Put it this way, Shakespeare has nothing on Abraham Lincoln, a great writer. And in his speeches, he tries to reach to the farmer and the aristocrat. He wants everyone to get the message. It's beautiful work. And so I've read a lot of Lincoln, I've read a lot of books, trying to find those good sentences so maybe I too can write one before I expire. And so I know a good one when I see it. I know a line that should be on a coffee mug or a t-shirt, and I saw one on this day. It is an email from the stepmother who I have not seen since the Iran hostage crisis. And so, Henry, this is your father's widow. If you have any questions, contact me. This is your father's widow. Bam! Perfect use of economy. You've told me everything I need to know. You've revealed nothing of yourself to me. There's no emotion whatsoever. There's nothing untrue about it. And like it tells me all I need to know in like this many words. And I'm like, oh, you are good. Heidi, come in here, look at this fantastic use of impact and brevity. If only Hemingway could have even approached this. And she comes, she's like, Henry, your father's dead. Yeah, but this is your father's widow. Boom! That's like a shot to the spleen. Henry, your father's dead. Yeah, whatever, but damn, that is a good sentence. Henry, how do you feel? Hungry? Are we going to... So, well, you have to answer. I'm like, why? Like, because you should. Okay, well, let's have some fun. I'll say, stepmother, I don't understand what you're saying. Please repeat yourself. Send. Henry, no. Like, can we write, are you sure? Can you kick him a few times? Got any corpse photos we can see? You know, Instagram, all those cool social platforms. Henry, no! Like, okay, what do you want me to write this woman who you've never met? Sorry for your loss. Write that. And I'm going to watch, make sure you don't do any shenanigans. And so I write, sorry for your loss. She approves it. I hit send. And I've never heard from this woman again. Are you surprised? And so that's basically the death of my father. And so Weeks later, I went searching on the internet for that page they often have for dead people, where you can leave an e-bouquet, or you can leave a note to the family or the deceased, whatever you want. There's a box you can type in, whatever you fancy. And I remember going to that site of a buddy of mine from back in Washington, D.C., who died. And there's these beautiful, heartfelt letters in there. Man, remember we used to go to the 930 Club, man, see the Bad Brains and Minor Threat, man. Those were the days, man. I miss you, man. We'll have beers in hell, dude. Keep rocking. And like, this man is writing a dead person as if this person is alive. A cynical person, like, you're an idiot. Well, no, maybe he just really misses this guy, and it's hard to let go. So he's just gonna like, you know what, man, I know you're dead, I know, but I'm still thinking about you in the present tense because I miss you, and I'm never gonna see you again. So I'm gonna write this thing about those times where we were happy, and I'm gonna put it in the present tense because rock and roll. And I understand that incredible pain. That's just a reflection of real pain, not